Welcome guys, I'm Pat, and we have a lot of great news this week in horror. From Scream 5 to a new Stephen King adaptation to a major update in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, there is so much to talk about. Let's dive in. Hello?
Oh, Stu. What's your motive? Billy's got one. The police are on their way. What are you gonna tell them?
Peer pressure. Scream 5 is in the works. Let's talk about who's involved and the story. This article coming from comingsoon.net says that Neve Campbell is in talks to join Scream 5. As we already know, Wes Craven passed away in 2015, and there hasn't been a Scream film since 2011. In an interview with Rotten Tomatoes, Neve Campbell was approached by Ready or Not directors Matt Bettinelli, I think that's how you say his name, and Tyler Gillette about a potential Scream 5. This is pretty interesting news. I am a huge fan of Ready or Not. Ready or Not was scary and funny, and I think they are a perfect match to helm the next Scream film. Campbell said in the interview, "I'm so grateful for these films. I love Sidney Prescott. It's always fun for me to step back in her shoes, and it's always fun for me to see the cast come back and make one of these films again, and try to make another good one." Kevin Williamson is set to return as executive producer, which is great. However, I hope he writes the script for the film. Williamson wrote the first two and the fourth one, and most fans agree that Scream 3 was the weakest of the bunch. So I think it's pretty important that he writes it. The story is still very vague and follows a woman returning to her hometown to find out who's been committing a series of vicious crimes. There's not much to say on the story, so I'll leave it at that. A new Stephen King adaptation is in the works over at Warner Brothers. This is especially exciting news as they brought in Mike Flanagan, who directed two other King films, Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep, both of which were very well received. He also directed Hush and Oculus, so he has some solid success in horror. Flanagan will adapt the script and have the option to direct. Cross your fingers, Flanagan is the real deal. I'll go see anything he creates. Now, the story of Stephen King's revival spans several decades and focuses on a former minister who engages in experimental healing practices with horrifying consequences after a tragic accident causes him to lose his family and renounce his faith. I guess we'll see what Flanagan can do with this. I'm kind of excited because I love Flanagan and I love Stephen King, so I sense something good coming up.
Dr. Lecter.
You see, the brain itself feels no pain, Clarice, if that concerns you. For example, Paul won't miss this little piece here, which is the part of the prefrontal lobe, which they say is the seat of good manners.
Bloody Disgusting reports that a series titled Clarice, which will be a spin-off of Silence of the Lambs, has been picked up by CBS. Rebecca Breeds of Pretty Little Liars has been casted to play the classic Clarice Starling. The plot: Clarice is set in 1993, a year after the events of Silence of the Lambs. The series is a deep dive into the untold personal story of Clarice Starling, as she returns to the field to pursue serial murderers and sexual predators while navigating the high-stakes political world of Washington, D.C. Brilliant and vulnerable, Clarice graduated magna from UVA with a double major in psych and criminology. Her bravery gives her an inner light that draws monsters and madmen to her. Her complex psychological makeup comes from a challenging childhood, and her drive comes from her need to escape the burden of family secrets that have haunted her throughout her life. I mean, I guess it's cool. I don't know if it's just going to be like a cop show with this Clarice put on top of it. I don't know. I think this show's going to be okay. I'm not really excited for it. It just sounds like a cop show. I don't know.
Fuck me.
This is my redemption, dickwad. I'm gonna be the one to end you.
Sad news for American Horror Story fans. We may not be getting a season 10 this year due to the pandemic. A few months ago, AHS was set and ready to start shooting, but all of Hollywood has been on halt and nothing is being done. This is what Ryan Murphy had to say. A lot of what I was going to shoot was dependent on a very specific moment. It was a weather-dependent show. So I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do next with that show. I don't know if I'll accelerate another season or wait until next year to shoot this one. I was really looking forward to the aquatic themed season. Sarah Paulson, Evan Peters, and Kathy Bates were all set to return, which would have been fantastic. I really missed them last season. Yes, we have another Children of the Corn film in the works. Oh man, honestly, it can't be any worse than what we got in the past. So why not bring it on? The producer of Ford vs. Ferrari, Lucas Foster, and the director of Equilibrium and Ultraviolet, Kurt Wimmer, have been currently filming a remake of The Children of the Corn. That's an interesting duo, I guess, and they are filming in Australia. That's why they can film now. This all really came out of left field, but I'm actually kind of interested. For the first time in the franchise history, they have actual professionals working on the project.
What's in here?
Record vault.
Oh, where you keep the golden oldies and maybe the new music's in
So as you may know, there is yet another Texas Chainsaw Massacre film in the works. But there is a lot of good news surrounding this production. The reboot was supposed to start filming this week, but as you know, everything has been delayed. The film is being produced by Fede Alvarez, who previously directed Evil Dead, one of my favorite horror films of all time, and the critically acclaimed Don't Breathe. The franchise is in great hands. I only wish he was directing it though. According to the latest casting call, Dread Central reports, the new Leatherface is listed as a non-speaking role and primarily expresses himself with guttural noises that range from a howling belly laugh to a pig-like squeal. His time is spent inside watching TV, which is something that triggers his laughter. It's also revealed that he shields his face in an effort to avoid his picture being taken. I'm okay with that. Sounds like it can be pretty disturbing if executed correctly. And they continue. The one person who could calm Kenny's tantrums is Miss Mick. She is 70, 80 years old and seems to actually be a warm, honest lady who has fostered abandoned children for decades. They are casting all ethnicities for Miss Mick, who despite having a positive outlook, is on the verge of being evicted from her rural Texas home. Yeah, I did forget to mention that Leatherface's name will be in fact Kenny. I don't know why they chose Kenny, but they chose Kenny. He'll be an old man, 60 years old, and if done well, it could be effective. I guess we'll see what they do. I hope the old woman remains a good person and she's not secretly a bad person. I think that's a cool little dynamic, because if she was just a bad person who's cannibal or whatever, that would be really boring. We've seen it tons of times like that. The story will follow two sisters, Melody and Dreama. The older sister, Melody, is a 25-year-old San Francisco moneymaker who drags her younger teenage sister with her to Texas on a business trip out of fear of leaving her alone in the city. On the other hand, Dreama is an amateur photographer and should be noted that she is in a wheelchair and is presumably disabled. Ryan and Andy Tuill will direct the reboot and will be written by Chris Thomas Devlin, who I looked up. He has no previous works at all. This is his first job, which good for him. I hope he does good. Okay guys, that's This Week in Horror. Check back next week for more news. If you like what you saw and want to see more, give me a like and subscribe. Comment below on these topics and tell me what you think. Alright guys, catch you next time.